Well, 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 well. Just as I thought, I was out of the woods as we approached or celebrated our second year anniversary of Bardic Quest and indeed episode 100, which we hit this week. As it turns out, I was desperate to get to Friday, desperate to get to today, because I thought I might get a little bit of respite and a little bit of rest, because it has been an intense week, a great week, don't get me wrong, but an intense week with lots of new content going out, launching our Patreon, which, by the way, you can support at patreon.com/BardicQuest. A lot going on, and just as I thought I was going to get a little bit of respite, Wizards of the Coast decide that they're going to release what they're calling a bonus playtest with some really exciting stuff in it to really keep me on my toes and to kind of force my hand into doing another live stream. Now, admittedly, I haven't done an Arcana Unearthed for a couple of weeks as we've been going through celebrating these milestones. So I was kind of thinking of doing one anyway, but Wizards of the Coast decided they wanted to force my hand because I gotta say, this is the playtest that I have been waiting for. I must confess, I haven't yet read through it. But this is ultimately, when they announced that they were doing the Unearthed Arcana for the what was oned&d, now the rules update for 5th edition, one of the things that they subtly mentioned in the background and kind of in passing was that they were introducing official rules for building a stronghold for your D&D characters and your D&D party. Now, I must reference, of course, Strongholds and Followers by MCDM, Matt Colville and team, and this is essentially going to be WotC's answer to Strongholds and Followers, which is arguably, I think, possibly the most popular, well-known, successful third-party book. I might be wrong on that, but it's one of the few third-party hardcovers that I actually own. And it's a good book. So Wizards of the Coast have come up with their answer to that, and about bloody time too, because quite frankly, and I'm sure we'll get into this as we go, quite frankly, Wizards of the Coast, when they released 5th edition, did a pretty poor job, I think, of implementing some of the more traditional aspects of the game. I love 5th edition, I think 5th edition is great, but I do have my problems with it, and the lack of kind of traditional aspects of the game is certainly one that does get up my nose quite frequently. Not because I have anything against the Wizards of the Coast team, not because I have necessarily any problems with 5th edition per se, but it just kind of, I can't constantly come up against these friction points. So we're going to go in today to what they are calling the Bastion system. Which obviously they couldn't name it Strongholds, I think possibly because of MCDM and Strongholds and Followers. I suppose they didn't want to be too associated with that, but here we are. We are associating it with that anyway. So this is the answer to building a kingdom, well, not necessarily a kingdom, but certainly a stronghold, or a bastion for your character. So we're going to go through. This is fresh off the press. They released it yesterday, completely by surprise. They haven't even completed, I don't think, the survey for the last one, the last playtest material. So this is the first time I'm really reading through it properly. There is a lot here. There is 20 pages of just the Bastion system. So this is probably going to take us a few episodes to get through. But before I waffle any longer, let's have a look at exactly what they're saying, and I'll give my thoughts as we go. So a bastion, if you're unfamiliar with the term, is, as it pertains to 5th edition, a location that belongs to a player character, a home, a stronghold, and a place of power that the character nurtures and develops over the course of a campaign. A bastion offers a character temporary refuge from the dangerous world of adventuring, and it provides opportunities for a character to craft magic items, conduct research, harvest poisons, build ships, and carry out a broad range of other activities. Now, Jeremy Crawford, in the video that they released yesterday, did mention that they wanted to utilize bastions as a method for allowing players and parties to utilize downtime activities a little bit more, even when they are out adventuring, which I'm sure we will come to later. But just to give you a heads up, because it's kind of alluded to a little bit here. So, it's up to the dungeon master to decide whether bastions are available in a campaign, and presuming that these rules are good, I'm going to put it out there now. I probably am going to allow them, because I think it's a traditional part of the game, and a fun one. I remember reading through the 3rd edition Player's Handbook and seeing that you could buy your own castle, and that got me very, very excited for getting lots and lots of money in D&D. And I think it's a wish fulfillment for a lot of players. I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, bastions are best suited to campaigns that allow characters to return to their bastions during intervals when they're not actively adventuring. So an adventure like Lost Mine of Phandelver or Shattered Obelisk, for example, ones that are based around a base town, is probably most suited, as opposed to something like Tyranny of Dragons, where you are just constantly traveling through the world. Yes. So there's no need to choose between going on adventures and commanding a bastion. A character can do both at once. A bastion has special facilities that generate in-game benefits, and these facilities can also undertake projects whilst the character is otherwise preoccupied. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying about them wanting you to have the ability to utilize these downtime activities when you're out adventuring. So bastions are intended to be havens for the characters who own them. Although random events might test a bastion from time to time, which we'll come to, sounds very, very fun, the bastion can be destroyed in only 2 ways. See Fall of a Bastion section, which, again, we may come to later today, or if not, I'm planning to do a live stream on Monday as well, so we'll come to it then if we don't get through it all, because, again, there's 20 pages of this. Most importantly, a bastion is a creative playground for a player, and a shared storytelling place in the campaign. DMs should be as permissive as possible with the stories players tell in their bastions, but players should know their control goes only as far as the campaign's larger story, which the DM strives to make fun for everyone. This is something that Jeremy Crawford also talked about in the video, is this idea of allowing players to kind of dabble with being a DM a little bit here. And kind of giving them just this little hub that is theirs to manipulate, theirs to control, kind of like a DM would in terms of navigating the PC. So it kind of gives them a little bit of opportunity for collaborative storytelling and kind of world building as they create their own world. And again, I think that's part of the wish fulfillment of owning a stronghold in D&D, is kind of going, I'm going to impart my place. I'm going to put my opinions into the world, and I'm going to build this part of the wider world as I want it to be, and as it's very much kind of utilizing that kind of local baron, local lord thing, and I think it's right that they're going down the route of saying to the DM, look, when it comes to the stronghold, just hand over the reins to the players. Don't get too bogged down, because you've got the wider campaign to play around with anyway. Let them kind of play around and see what they can come up with and react accordingly. And I think in this particular case, I think a good DM would absolutely lean into that. So I like this already. Again, this is a hot take for me. I'm literally reading this properly for the first time as we're going through this now. So, some design notes here. Keep the following notes in mind as you review this document. Defenders and hirelings. To ease the burden on players, we don't present or require statistics for bastion hirelings and defenders. All a player needs to track is the number of each in their bastion. Players can assign names and personalities to their bastion's occupants as they see fit. Interesting. Not sure how I feel about that. I think it's wise for the DM perhaps to be aware of the sorts of stats that hirelings might need. But again, I don't know how the rules are going to function for this, so it might be completely irrelevant. But possibly wise for the DM to have, I don't know, a few commoner stats, stat blocks available, and things like perhaps guards and veterans and things, but we'll see. GP expenditure. Bastions give characters new ways to spend their gold. Finally! I have been running Out of the Abyss recently, and they came across a frig ton of gold, and I was just kind of like, I mean, look, aside from them being in the Underdark for Out of the Abyss, I was kind of like, this adventure's giving you a lot of gold. I have no idea what you're going to do with it. And I like the fact that this is an opportunity, and I think this is why people have been calling for strongholds to become available. This is a huge opportunity for players that have no interest in necessarily going and buying magic items. Although why they'd have no interest, I don't know. But it gives them an opportunity to spend their gold on something that's non-magical. But most importantly, and this is why I'm so excited that they've released this, and I've been waiting for this since day one of the announcement of oned&d, is this now also gives, crucially, the dungeon masters something to kind of present to their players for them to spend their money on without having to open up magic items. Because there are some DMs, and I think I kind of fall into this category a little bit, who don't want magic items to be something that you can just go to a shop and buy. And yeah, you've got rules about, limiting it, like I think it's in Xanathar's Guide to Everything as part of the downtime rules, where, yeah, you can go and shop for magic items, but it's basically going to be randomly determined what magic items are available to you, and there's not going to be many of them either. And I kind of like that. But what happens if you really want to lean into a low magic fantasy setting? Well, Bastions then gives you an opportunity to do that. But they also said, but we want the gold they spend to make them happy, as opposed to feeling like mortgage payments. That is something I can kind of see where they're coming from. I don't know if I might have some pushback against that. I don't know. We'll see. But there is a little bit of a trepidation that this idea of, yeah, you kind of get to have your castle and things, but yeah, it's not going to cost you a lot to get it in the first place. It kind of, those two statements almost feel paradoxical to me. In that, yeah, we want you to be able to spend your gold on your bastion, but yeah, we don't want it to, cost you the world. So we'll see. Again, I'm reading this properly for the first time. So let's have a look then at how a party goes about gaining said bastion. If you allow bastions in your campaign, characters acquire their bastions when they reach level 5. You and the players can decide together how these bastions come into being. A character might inherit or receive a parcel of land on which to build their bastion, or they might take a pre-existing structure and refurbish it. It's fair to assume that work has been going on behind the scenes of the campaign during a character's early adventuring career, so the bastion is ready to use when the character reaches level 5. Not a fan. I'm not going to lie, not a fan. So what I believe they're saying is that by virtue of reaching level 5, you automatically gain a bastion. Even if there's been no kind of roleplay discussion about having a bastion, so you could hit level 4, or rather hit level 5, and say to your DM, oh, by the way, are you allowing bastions? Because I want one. We've not roleplayed this. We've not laid any foundations in the verisimilitude of the world, but by virtue of the fact that I'd like one, and I'm now level 5, means that I should probably have one because you've said that they're in the game. I see. This is where I have my issues with some of the new updates. Is they're kind of stripping back it feels to me like they are stripping back the actual roleplay element in order to allow rules offerings. And for me, I kind of need both to line up. I don't like things like it's fair to assume that, because when you assume, you make an ass of you and me. I don't like that sort of thing. But we'll see. People will disagree. So let's carry on and see how we get on. So the shape, style, and function of a character's bastion are up to the player to determine. For example, a wizard might build a tower. A cleric might establish a shrine. A fighter might build a fortified keep or similar stronghold. And a rogue might establish a guild hall or lodge. This is sounding very familiar, Wizards of the Coast. Very familiar indeed. I mean, look, I'm being a little bit cruel there to them, but it's sounding very familiar. Characters of other classes might choose one of these forms or combine them. A paladin's bastion might be similar to a cleric's shrine, but as fortified as a fighter's stronghold. And multiple characters can combine their bastions to form a single large structure. Sounding very familiar, Wizards of the Coast. Now, not every character needs to have a bastion. It's fine for some players in your campaign to opt into bastion ownership and others to opt out. Characters without bastions of their own can still gain benefits from their friends' bastions. Oh, that's very nice. Every bastion contains basic and special facilities which encompass everything from kitchens and bedrooms to fantastical menageries and magical laboratories. See bastion facilities below, which again we might get to today, if not hopefully on Monday. A character can add basic facilities to their bastion at any time. I'm hoping, presumably, so long as they pay for it. Oh, hang on. At any time, comma, spending money and time depending on facility. Okay, good. Question answered. Each bastion begins with 2 special facilities, and a character adds additional special facilities on reaching levels 9, 13, and 17. So, are they saying that when you reach those levels, you have the option to spend more money to add them? Or are we talking, once again, like with level 5, wherein you've reached those levels, so you automatically unlock them without the need to spend the money and time? That might need some clarification, but we will see. Bastion turns. Now, this is an interesting concept. As time passes in the campaign, characters take bastion turns to reflect the activity occurring in their bastions, whether or not the characters are present. A bastion turn occurs every 7 days of in-game time, though the DM can alter the frequency of bastion turns. See how bastion turns work for advice on doing so. On a bastion turn, a character can issue orders to the special facilities of their bastion, or issue the maintain order to the entire bastion. See orders below. So this is an interesting concept. This is every 7 days, basically, you get to activate your bastion in some way, which is going to give you some benefits, presumably, or maybe even trigger some events. I really, really like this. I like things like this that are built into the game, where you have passages of time outside of rounds of combat. I am a big fan of procedural play, and it's another friction point of mine with 5th edition, that procedural play has kind of become a lost art. And by procedural play, I'm not talking about necessarily just random encounters. What I'm talking about is this idea of, this is how a turn works when you are exploring a dungeon. This is how a turn works when you're out in the wilderness. And having it in very, very structured form, rather than having it a little bit free flow. And the problem is with 5th edition, is everything is kind of like, yeah, kind of utilize this if you want to, utilize that if you want to, but often they don't put any procedures in place, and that's kind of what I'm a little bit worried about here, is sure, it occurs every 7 days, but is there a procedure in place for the passage of time built into the Dungeon Master's Guide with the new updates? I'm hoping there will be, but I do fear that there might not be. And I do think that is where 5th edition really falls down quite a lot, is in that lack of procedures. But things like this give me hope that they're thinking about it, at least. But then, once bitten, twice shy. So, how a bastion turn works. So, by default, bastion turns occur every 7 days, giving characters regular opportunities to issue orders to their bastions and reap the benefits of doing so. Here are some typical situations. The characters are on a long journey away from their bastions. After the character has been away for 7 days, you might say, time for a bastion turn. Since you're not there, resolve the maintain order for your bastions. Then roll for bastion events. Another example. The characters spend 7 days or more in their bastions between adventures. You might say, you have 6 weeks to spend in your bastions. Go ahead and resolve 6 bastion turns. Okay. Kind of like downtime, sure. The characters return to their bastions in the midst of an adventure. You might say, you have just enough time to issue a new order if you like. Take a bastion turn before you leave again in the morning. Okay. And the characters are adventuring near their bastions and are spending every night in their bastions. You might say, it's been a week since your last bastion turn, so you can take a new one now. Sometimes you might want to slow the pace of bastion turns. If the characters have a long period of downtime between adventures, say 6 months or more, you might call for a bastion turn every month instead of every 7 days. Aim for about 6 to 8 bastion turns per level. If the characters are adventuring at breakneck pace and gaining a level every week, they'll have no time to enjoy the benefits of their bastions. On the other hand, if they're spending extended time between adventures and levels gained, spacing out bastion turns ensures they won't amass more bastion points than they can use. Now I'm intrigued by this a little bit. This goes back to what I was saying about procedural play. This is where the game design of 5th edition and WotC sometimes can be a little bit wishy-washy. So what they're saying is, it's going to be every 7 days. But it doesn't have to be every 7 days. It could be every month. It could be... Like, I have no problem with a DM house ruling things. But it gets pretty tricky when Wizards of the Coast are house ruling things in the rulebooks. Like, give the Dungeon Master permission at the beginning of the book to say, you can follow these rules if you want, or you can tweak things as well if you want. And then just kind of leave it alone. I'd like them to present the game as they want it to function. Not about trying to be a catch-all for everyone. Or maybe do a little sidebar here, you know. But have the default rules and just present the default rules as they are. Don't provide me with all of these various different options. I want a procedure in place for how it works. And unfortunately, when they start getting all wishy-washy with, well, you can change this and you can change that, it then muddies the water and there's no clear procedure in place. Just simply say, every 7 days, they take a bastion turn. We don't need this here of, you know, well, be careful because things might break. It's like, let it sit. Let it sit. I don't know. It just bugs me. Bit of a bugbear of mine. So, bastion points, which have just been alluded to, which obviously are gained during a bastion turn. So each special facility in a bastion generates bastion points during a bastion turn, depending on the facility and the bastion order issued to that facility. Players are responsible for tracking how many bastion points their character has, and bastion points can't be transferred between characters or their bastions. A character can spend bastion points to acquire magic items from their bastion, or to receive certain other special rewards. So bastion points are an abstraction, reflecting the benefits characters accumulate when their bastions are operating. Exactly how amassing and spending bastion points leads to characters acquiring a magic item is up to the player's imagination. Perhaps the bastion hirelings spread the word that the character is looking for a particular item. With sufficient time and goodwill built up in the community, the item finds its way to the bastion as a gift. Perhaps bastion hirelings work tirelessly to create the item the character desires. So this is a way of, basically, it's currency for magic items, which I think is kind of a cool little idea, and kind of then tying it to the bastion kind of, I suppose, is similar to that downtime of crafting a magic item in many ways, I guess. I kind of like this. This is the kind of sort of less precise rulings of the law. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here, where I was saying earlier about I don't want the law to be watered down. I don't want it to kind of be too wishy-washy. This is where I don't mind it so much, because what you're giving the characters is a resource with which to then create that narrative, rather than it just kind of being, oh yeah, you've got a bastion now. This sort of thing I prefer, where it's like, okay, here are some resources that have been built up. How do you use them? That is a little bit better. I like an abstraction of things rather than just a blanket, yeah, do what you want, which is what this kind of introduction of bastions, where you get them at level 5, feels like, as opposed to bastion points, where it's like, yeah, you're going to have to build up that resource. It creates resource management, and it creates a little bit of a gameplay loop. You get a reward for carrying out certain activities, and then you can utilize that reward as you like. If I'm honest, the introduction of bastions at level 5. I would say, sure, make it available to characters at level 5, but give us a gold piece cost. Now, again, I don't know if this will crop up later, and they'll say this is how much it costs you to build your bastion, but nothing's come up yet, which does concern me that it might not be coming at all. You let your characters use your resources, or their resources. But again, that has been alluded to, so maybe it will come up. So, accumulating bastion points. When characters issue orders to special facilities in their bastions, those facilities generate bastion points. Basic facilities don't generate bastion points. So we've got 2 tiers of facilities: basic facilities and special facilities. Each special facility description indicates the number of bastion points the facility generates when it completes an order. If a character issues the maintain order to the bastion, each special facility instead generates 1d4 bastion points. Special facilities that have been shut down or lost their hirelings because of an event don't generate bastion points while they're out of commission. Now that's interesting. This looks as though really the management of a bastion seems to be pretty hands-on in terms of facilities being shut down or hirelings being lost, which could then impede your ability to generate bastion points. So I like that. It's kind of like almost like a city builder game as a kind of mini game subsystem within 5th edition. So I'm hoping that is kind of the way it's going. Kind of sounds like that's what they're alluding to. So characters can use money to influence the rate at which facilities generate bastion points. Spending 25 gold pieces when issuing a bastion order to a facility allows the player to roll the die for that facility's bastion point generation twice and use the higher result. Characters can't use this option when issuing the maintain order to the bastion. So that's interesting. It's kind of like an investment into your bastion. 25 gold pieces, which presuming every 7 days, when we know that the average wage for a commoner in D&D is about a gold piece a week. That's basically 6 months worth of wages invested into the bastion, which I kind of like. It's probably small pocket change to a D&D character, but I suppose 25 gold at 5th level. I mean, at that point, it's still a significant chunk of change, I think, when you split it between everyone. Yeah, I think that's a significant chunk. It will be less important later, which is fine, but I think for 5th level, that's a good amount. So acquiring magic items, here we are. So each time a character gains a level, so it's specifically when they gain a level. That's cool. I like that. Putting some limitations on it, always good. I'm a fan of limitations. Each time a character gains a level, they can spend their bastion points to acquire a single magic item. Any magic item acquired in this fashion must be approved by the Dungeon Master. The bastion point cost of each magic item is based on the item's rarity, as shown in the spending bastion points table. If a rarity has a level prerequisite, the character must be that level or higher to get them. A character must be in their bastion to claim a magic item acquired with bastion points. If the character is away from the bastion, the magic item remains secure in the bastion until the character arrives to claim it. Now that I like as well. This sort of thing is exactly the sort of thing I like. I was kind of expecting that Wizards of the Coast were going to be like, yeah, they just get a magic item. And you decide as a Dungeon Master how the item reaches the players. But they haven't. They've resisted that here, and that's the sort of thing that makes me quite happy, because now we have a reason for the party to go back to their bastion, which I think is really, 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 really important. And yes, of course, there are those campaigns where you are traveling like Tyranny of Dragons, where getting back to your bastion is a big, massive pain in the backside. But then you've got an opportunity to create a side quest in which is like, okay, well, now we need to find a teleportation circle, because now we actually need to get back to the bastion to get that magic item that's really going to help us with the next challenge that we have. And it's a nice little side trek that can be, in of itself, a bit of a side quest and a side challenge, particularly if then when they get back to their bastion, some random events have happened and they have to deal with that. I don't know what the random events are, but you can kind of see that was a good move from WotC because it forces things back into the bastion and allows the narrative of the bastion to become quite important. That's a really good move that as a dungeon master I'm really very happy with. And also, of course, this big line here, any magic item acquired in this fashion must be approved by the DM, which is always a safe little caveat to put into things like this. So in terms of bastion points per magic item, we got 20 bastion points minimum. 1d4 bastion points. So let's say you rolled maximum well, actually, let's take the average. So that's probably going to actually be about 10 weeks on just using the maintain each special facility. Oh, okay, maybe not then. It depends on how many facilities you have, which I suppose then makes them a worthwhile investment because the more facilities you have, the quicker you're going to get those magic items. Interestingly as well, you can't get very rare or legendary items before you hit certain levels. So you can only get common and uncommon magic items between level 5 and 9, and then those open up to you as well, which I think is also pretty fair. Although how one would go about getting 250 bastion points before hitting level 9 would be interesting to see, but I suppose it would be possible. See, this is the sort of check and balance that I think actually makes things like yeah, well, you don't want them to accrue too many bastion points, so slow down the pace of bastion turns. It's kind of not required because you've got a check and balance here. So characters who have reached level 20 can use bastion points to acquire a magic item each time they earn a bonus feat, which is every 30,000 XP above 355,000 XP, which is cool. I like that they have laid that out as well. Other uses of bastion points. Oh, interesting. Now that I wasn't expecting. I thought the bastion points were very much going to be just like, get your magic item. So on gaining a level, a character can spend 10 bastion points, which is half the cost of a common magic item, to ensure that word of their heroic deeds spreads throughout the region around their bastion. For the next 7 days, the character has advantage on all charisma checks while within 50 miles, which is pretty generous, of their... Oh, actually, you know, 50 miles... 50 miles is, what, a couple of days' travel? Let me consult my my Dungeon Master screen because that's probably the easiest I'm going to get to it. I think that's 2 days travel. Travel pace, yeah, 24 miles a day. So yeah, call it 2 days travel. That's okay. So within 2 days of your bastion. Okay, that's not too generous. I think that's probably an appropriate distance. So when a character dies, the character can spend... What? No. 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 When a character dies, the character can spend 100 bastion points, which, by the way, is less than a rare magic item. 100 bastion points to return to life in their bastion at the next dawn. After spending bastion points in this way, a character can't do so again until gaining at least 1 level. Nah. Nope. That's a big fat nope from me. You're telling me that for less than half the price of a rare magic item, you are essentially giving a character immortality, provided they have enough bastion points. Like, I don't really understand the allergy that Wizards of the Coast seems to have with allowing characters to just die. Like, I don't get it. Like, I understand we all get attached to the characters. I, as a Dungeon Master, get very attached to the characters. We've just announced that we're going to be moving on to a new campaign from our actual play next year. And I'm still in love with the characters that we're running for Campaign 1. I'm going to be devastated when those characters are no longer part of that part of the campaign that we're running as part of Bardic Quest. I'm going to be devastated. I love those characters. And DMs get attached to the characters too. Players get attached to the characters. But just because a character has been killed doesn't mean that there's no story to tell there. Like, the death of a character is so powerful in storytelling. And it just seems to me like preventing a character from dying seems to be more important right now than both the balance of the game, the fun and enjoyment of the game, and the stories that people are trying to tell. Like, I grew up with having video games where you had... I don't know if video games still do cheat codes. I don't think people really use them anymore. But certainly when I was a teenager, every game had cheat codes. Every game had an ability to do God mode. And yeah, that was fun for, you know, the first few sessions of playing the game. And then things got pretty boring pretty fast, because at that point you're just going through the motions of the story. There's no threat, and if there's no threat, there's no tension. If there's no tension, there's no conflict. If there's no conflict, there's no drama, and if there's no drama, there is no story. Like, I'm coming at this from a professional entertainer, professional actor. Like, if there is no drama, no conflict, there is no story. So if your character can't die, there is no game. And if there is no game and there is no story, then what the hell are we doing here in the first place? Why not just sit and watch a film or sit and read a book? Like, I don't understand why there is an allergy to letting player characters die. Like, I don't get it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go out of my way to kill a character, but if the dice go that way, the dice go that way, provided that I have done everything fairly and I have utilized, you know, challenge ratings as best I can, even though the challenge rating system is a little bit broken. But so long as I'm not abusing my power as a dungeon master and I am just simply presenting situations that I want to see if the characters can get out of, and providing that I'm not trying to screw the players or do a gotcha moment, like, I'm not going to fudge the dice to stop a character from dying if the character's made some dumb decisions. And that's the characters, not the players. If the character's made some dumb decisions, then that's on the character. That's part of the story. Like, I enjoy the characters that make dumb decisions because it keeps me on my toes as a dungeon master. I get worried when a character is looking to die. But things like this just cheapen the game for me. Like, come on. 100 bastion points to essentially grant a character God mode, immortality, respawn? That's dumb. That's dumb. I'm off my soapbox now. It's too much. It's just too much. This is a mixed bag. Some of this stuff I'm really loving, but then Wizards of the Coast just ruin it with shit like that. So let's have a look at Bastion facilities here. See how we get on, because there's a fair bit here. I don't think we're going to get through it all at all. There's a lot here. So Bastion facilities. When a character gains a Bastion, it comes with 2 basic facilities and 2 special facilities. Okay, so 2 of each. Both types of facilities are explained below. The amount of space in a facility determines its maximum area in 5-foot squares. Okay, as shown in the facility space table. Players can configure the squares of a facility as they please on the Bastion's map. The squares can be stacked so that a facility's area is distributed over multiple levels or stories. I'm getting a little bit confused here. So you get 2 of each, 2 basic and 2 special. And they're, depending on what size you choose, and you can choose any size, is going to dictate the maximum squares. So a player is encouraged to create a floor plan of their character's Bastion. Configuring the Bastion's basic and special facilities as they see fit. In addition to those facilities, the Bastion can have the following features. A basic or special facility, this is a closet, a basic or special facility can have one or more closet-sized enclosures within it at no added cost. No added cost. This is interesting. I think we're going to be talking money soon, I'm hoping. The closet must be inside the facility and can't increase the facility's area in squares. Okay. That's fine. So yeah, it's just a cupboard, basically. Doors and windows. Each facility comes with one or more doors and shuttered windows placed wherever the players see fit. See doors in Chapter 5 of Dungeon Master's Guide for the kind of doors to choose from, including locked doors, secret doors, and portcullises. These features are free. So again, closets, doors, and windows don't cost you anything. Indeed, corridors, ramps, and staircases are the same. These are free. A facility can contain one or more corridors, ramps, or staircases leading to other facilities in the Bastion. These features are free. Defensive walls. A player can add defensive walls around their Bastion. A defensive wall is 20 feet high and may include a walkway along the top of it, which means to access it, such as a ladder or lift, with a means to access it, such as a ladder or lift. Each 5-foot square of defensive wall takes 10 days to build and costs 250 gold pieces. My, that is expensive. More expensive than immortality. Oh, no, that's fine. It was 250 gold pieces, not Bastion points. So not more expensive. All right, I'm gonna get off that soapbox now. If your Bastion is completely enclosed by defensive walls and it comes under attack, see Bastion events. Reduce by 2 the number of dice you roll to determine how many Bastion defenders are lost in the attack. Interesting. They seem to be... Look, I've just ragged on Wizards of the Coast for the allergy of letting characters die. But they are thinking about a lot of things here. For the most part, I am loving this so far. I just don't want them to undermine things, which is a shame. So, combining Bastions. 2 or more players have the option of combining their character's Bastion into a single structure. Sounds familiar, Wizards of the Coast. 2 or more players have the option, I've just read that, so doing so doesn't change the number of special facilities each Bastion can have, how those special facilities work, or who gets to issue orders to each Bastion. Each Bastion retains its own hirelings, which can't be sent to or shared with another Bastion. Bastion defenders are handled differently. If some event deprives one character's Bastion of defenders, another character can apply all or some of those losses to their Bastion instead, provided the 2 Bastions are combined. Now, I like this. All this stuff about the Bastion map. Again, it's a little bit of wish fulfillment for the players. Draw me a map. Build me your dungeon. What does your dungeon look like? Because also, they're talking about like attacks on the Bastions here. At that point, the players have laid out the dungeon for the DM and their monsters. I'm loving this as an idea. Really laying out, design me your Bastion. Tell me what your Bastion looks like. We'll draw it out. We'll get a map put together, and we can add to that as we go. Kind of almost turns it into like The Sims a little, a little bit. Let's have a look at some basic facilities. We've got about 15 minutes to wrap this up. So we'll probably look at these basic facilities and how they work before we move on. So basic facilities. Basic facilities don't generate Bastion points, but they can inspire meaningful roleplay opportunities and enhance a Bastion's verisimilitude. We like verisimilitude, well done. A Bastion with a kitchen is functionally the same as one without, but the former gives you and your players a fun setting to start game sessions, have in-character discussions, or introduce new NPCs, which is really great. I like the fact that they have lent both into the mechanical and the lore here, and they're kind of trying to lay out to... because the Bastion rules, for the record, are really going to be... in the Dungeon Master's Guide. This is not stuff that's going to be in the Player's Handbook, and it's kind of written to the DM. Gives you and your players a fun setting. So it's really trying to lay out to the Dungeon Master how they, too, are going to get to use these bastions a little bit. So, a character's bastion starts with 2 free basic facilities, which the character's player chooses from the basic facilities list below. Here we go. One of the chosen facilities is cramped, and the other is roomy. So to be clear, cramped means it has a maximum area of 4 squares, which I'm pretty sure they have said that each one is a 5-foot square. I don't know why they've put it in squares and not feet. I'm a little bit allergic to this sort of seeing things in squares, because that reminds me of the scary 4th edition days where they stopped putting things in feet, and that became a friction point for roleplay for people. Just put it in feet. Like, a maximum area. Well, although I suppose what they're saying is, I guess, if you start putting things in squared, then... Okay, fine. Fine, I'll let them off on that one. So yeah, one is 4 squares and one is 16 squares to be arranged however they like. A bastion, one of the chosen a bastion can have more than one of each facility. So the basic facilities are bedroom, courtroom, dining room, kitchen, parlour, storage, and washroom. So again, these don't necessarily provide any mechanical benefits. These are more for flavour, is the point of the basic facilities, is the impression that I get. A basic facility comes with non-magical furnishings and decor appropriate for that facility. Basic facilities can be enlarged and new ones added by spending gold pieces and in-game time, as discussed in the sections that follow. Any number of basic facilities can be built or enlarged at the same time. A character doesn't need to be in their bastion while new facilities are being added or enlarged. Now, I like the fact that they're saying, fine, you're going to have to pay some gold to add more facilities. I just want them to set a cost for having a bastion in the first place. That's kind of what I want. And then I suppose, in a way, doing that means that then it's kind of less around DM fear about whether or not... DM fear is probably the wrong term to use, but whether or not they then want to have bastions, whether or not they want to allow bastions in the game. If they simply say, yeah, you can have them, but it's going to cost you a ton of gold, then that's on the players if that's what they want to spend their money on. Which, the DM can advise and say, well, we're playing Tyranny of Dragons, and that's not really a campaign suited for it, so I wouldn't advise it. But if they don't follow that advice, that's up to them. Anyway, so how do we go about adding basic facilities? A character can add a basic facility to their bastion by spending money and in-game time. The cost of adding a basic facility and in-game time required depend on the facility's space, as shown on the Adding Basic Facilities table. Cramped space, 500 gold pieces and 20 days to build. A roomy space is 1,000 gold pieces and 45 days to build, and a vast space, which is 36 squares, that is pretty vast, 3,000 gold pieces and 125 days to build. Now that's cool. I like that, and I suppose this is why the mapping of the bastion is important, because really there is no in-game benefit for these. Absolutely none, as far as I can see. But these give you an excuse to expand that map and make that map a little bit more to your liking. Enlarging basic facilities. There is no in-game benefit to be gained by enlarging a basic facility. But a character might want to enlarge a facility for cosmetic reasons, such as the map, as I just mentioned, or to increase the overall size of their bastion. Character can spend money and in-game time to increase the space of a basic facility, that's one that already exists, in their bastion by one category as shown on the enlarging basic facilities table. So if they wanted to increase a cramped space to a roomy space, it's going to cost them 500 gold pieces. And roomy to vast 2,000 gold pieces is 25 days and 80 days, which basically is these minus the cost of the previous one. So 1,000 minus 500 is 500, 45 minus 20 is 25. So they've just done the maths for you. How very kind. Let's quickly look at the special facilities rules before we get to the descriptions, because I think I might have time for these. So let's have a look at what special facilities do, and then we'll actually go through the various special facilities next episode. So special facilities are locations in a bastion where the activities performed there can yield in-game benefits. A character's bastion initially has 2 special facilities of the character's choice for which they qualify. Each special facility can be chosen only once unless its description says otherwise. Unlike basic facilities, special facilities can't be bought. Interesting to know. A character gains them through level advancement. So they don't pay for them, but they get them? Not sure how I feel about that. At level 9, a character gains 2 additional special facilities. 2 of their choice for which they qualify, then 1 additional facility at level 13 and another at level 17. The special facility acquisition table shows the total number of special facilities in a character's bastion. Where is that table? Okay. I kind of... Assume that construction is ongoing in the time leading up to the character reaching the new level. So each new facility immediately becomes part of the character's bastion when the character reaches the level. This is the stuff I don't like. This is where they start undermining things. Just give us something. Give us something, not just, oh yeah, it happens now. We have too much of that in the game already. I mean, sure, like, that's fine for the DM to kind of lead. But really, I want the players to be leading that. Of like, these are the decisions I'm making because this is the bastion thing I want at level 9. So how do I go about getting that? What is the structures in place for me to start doing that now? Rather than just kind of like, oh yeah, by the way, you've leveled up, so you got the new special facility now. Each time a character gains a level, that character can replace one of their bastion's special facilities with another special facility for which the character qualifies. Again, assume that construction has been ongoing prior to the change. Right. Ugh. See, this is another bugbear I'm having with 1D&D / 5th edition rules update. I really don't like, and I know people have kind of come at me for this not come at me, that sounds like they're being far more aggressive than they are, but perhaps challenge me, push back on this thing I have about wanting choices to remain. Look, I understand that sometimes you make a bad choice, and sometimes it doesn't pan out as you want it to. But, like, that is kind of... like, that's consequences, y'all. Like, that is kind of the point of a game. Like, you make tactical decisions. Sometimes those tactical decisions bear fruit. Sometimes they don't. Like, are we going to start, like, making it so in a game of chess, like, if you move your piece into the wrong square, you can go, oh, actually, no, I didn't want to do that. Let's move that back. Like, again, if we can just kind of retcon every decision we make, like, are we playing a game anymore? Or are we just sitting around a campfire telling a story? So, I'm not a fan of the changing decisions that have already been made. And that is kind of something that I've consistently said throughout this playtest. So, requirements. Each special facility has a level. A character must be that level or higher to gain that facility. So, that's interesting. So, they're locking some behind some level prerequisites. A special facility might also have a prerequisite the character must meet to gain that facility. For example, only a character who can use an arcane focus as a spellcasting focus can have an arcane study special facility. Very cool, like that, big fan. Each special facility occupies a certain amount of space. See the facility space table. Just as with a basic facility, a player can configure the squares of a special facility as desired on the Bastions map, and a special facility can't be enlarged unless its description says otherwise. So they are a little bit more limited in terms of how you can utilize them, which I think is fair, because the whole point of these is that they are specialist spaces, so perhaps some of them need to be a certain size. So I think that makes sense. Hirelings. This is what we like. A special facility comes with one or more hirelings who work in and maintain the facility. Hirelings also execute bastion orders as described in the following section. A player can assign names and personalities to hirelings in their characters' bastions using the same tools DMs use to create non-player characters. And again, this is something that we touched on at the very beginning, and Jeremy Crawford touched on in the video that they released along with this playtest material, of kind of allowing the players to kind of dabble in DMing. And I do like that for this. Just kind of, you create the hirelings. Don't put that on the DM. They're your hirelings. Who are you employing, essentially? Now, that's not to say that the PCs necessarily play the NPCs. The DM's probably going to be doing that for them, so that could be a little bit of fun of, kind of joshing with the DM a little bit and saying, okay, well, I'm going to create this NPC. Good luck playing them. That could be fun. But equally, again, if you have that sort of relationship with your table, perhaps the DM kind of taking things slightly in a direction that the player wasn't expecting, which is fun. Each special facility in a bastion is assumed to generate enough income to pay the salary of its hirelings. Hirelings follow the orders they're given and are assumed to be loyal to the bastion's owner. Yeah, okay, I mean, sure, I never like this word assumed, as I've already touched on. But I kind of see where they're going with this, because we're mapping out the bastions. Do we really want to be doing accounting for whether or not we can afford our hirelings or not? I think that's probably, in this particular instance, probably the right call. Orders. On a bastion's turn, a character in their bastion can issue special orders called bastion orders to one or more of their bastion's special facilities. A character needn't issue order to all special facilities in their bastion on a given turn. I'm glad they've clarified that. Just do it to as many as you'd like. The maintain order is unusual. It's issued to the whole bastion rather than one or more special facilities. If a character isn't in their bastion on a given bastion turn, the bastion acts as though it was issued the maintain order on that turn. Each time a character issues a bastion order, that character gains a number of bastion points determined by a die roll as noted on the order line of the facility's description, which we will look at those next episode. But here are the types of orders that you can have. This is the last section before we wrap up today, and then it's the facility descriptions, which there are some cool things. Demiplane, fun times. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So the descriptions are as follows. Craft. Hirelings in the special facility begin crafting an item that can be made in that facility. You can also work to do the work yourself. But if you do so, the work is suspended when you leave the bastion until you return. During the time required to craft an item, the facility can't be used to craft anything else, even if a special ability allows the facility to carry out 2 orders at once. Again, these are orders for each different facility. Empower. The special facility confers a temporary empowerment to the player character or someone else. This is interesting, because I'm wondering if these are all laid out, or maybe they're just specific. I don't know. We'll come to that. Harvest. A resource is produced in the special facility, then the hirelings gather it. You can also do the gathering yourself, but if you do so, the work is suspended when you leave the bastion until you return. During the time required to harvest a resource, the facility can't be used to harvest anything else, even if a special ability allows the facility to carry out 2 orders at once. Cool. Maintain. This is what they're calling the special one. All the Bastion's hireling focus on maintaining the Bastion rather than executing orders on special facilities. So if you do maintain, nothing else operates. Issuing this order prohibits other orders from being issued to the Bastion on the current Bastion turn. Each time the maintain order is issued, the character who issued the order gains 1d4 Bastion points for each special facility in their Bastion. In lieu of Bastion points, they would normally earn by issuing orders to their special facilities. And the DM rolls on the Bastion events table. Interesting. Bastion events are resolved before the next Bastion turn, so apparently the maintain order actually triggers the Bastion events. And what was it that they said about the maintain order? If a character isn't in their Bastion on a given Bastion turn, the Bastion acts as though it was issued the maintain order. So you have to be in your Bastion in order to issue the orders. I think that's what they're saying. A character in their Bastion. Okay, sure. So if you're not in your Bastion, it's just going to maintain. So you have to be there to get the benefits of these. Recruit. Hirelings recruit creatures to your Bastion. Research. Hirelings in the special facility gather information. You can also do the research yourself, but if you do so, the work is suspended when you leave the Bastion until you return. And trade. Hirelings buy and sell goods or services. Ooh, excuse me. Ooh. Hirelings buy... It's been a long week. Hirelings buy and sell goods or services stored or produced in this special facility. So that's all of the orders of the Bastion. That's basically the rules for how a Bastion works. And so in the next episode, we're going to look through some of these special facilities and see what they can do. There's some interesting stuff just from scrolling through here, which I'm sure is coming up on the screen. What I'm interested to know is how, because they've said that they kind of want Bastions to be an opportunity, fall of a Bastion, for players to use downtime when they don't have downtime. But it seems to me, from what I've just read, that in order to get the benefits of these kind of downtime activities as part of your Bastion, you need to be in the Bastion, which case is downtime. So I don't really see how that solves the problem, but maybe you guys watching might be able to shed some light on what you think on that. Again, I was reading this for the first time today. So my final thoughts, before, again, we've not looked at the actual special facilities themselves, this is more of an overview of the actual rules. My final thoughts here is this is actually really solid. Like, again, I've gone on my soapbox a couple of times here. But that's more with my frustration of Wizards of the Coast overall in terms of some kind of idealistic choices they're making and very strong opinions they're having on what makes a good game, which I do disagree with in many, many respects. And I think some of the decisions that they're making, those kind of wider, kind of macro decisions that they're making, seem to actually be, in my opinion, exacerbating the problems of 5th edition rather than solving them, which I think is why I get so frustrated, because I want the game to get better with each update. I don't want it to get worse. I want it to get better. And I love 5th edition. I love this game. I do love Dungeons and Dragons and have done for a very long time. I want the game to have a really strong future, and I don't want them to undermine what is really good. This is really, really good game design that they've got here. Really good game design. I don't want it to get undermined by these kind of idealistic views, perhaps. But then, people could argue that my views on what makes a good game could be equally idealistic. This is just my opinion. Strong though my opinions may be, WotC have their opinion, and that's fine too. But I just want to reiterate, I actually really like these Bastion rules, aside from the resurrection respawn thing. So much so that I am really strongly considering, because they did say on the video that these things can be played because it's kind of an isolated subsystem that doesn't interact too much with other subsystems of the game, that you could easily take this and start playtesting it now. And I am really strongly considering playtesting this, because this is a fun new system. It looks really good. It looks like they've really thought it through. It allows players to be creative. We're actually in a point in the Monday night Shattered Obelisk game that's just moved from Lost Mine of Fandelver to Shattered Obelisk, where they are talking about setting up a business and setting up things like that. So it might be an optimum time to try it. I don't know. I might pose that to them. I'm not sure. I'm sure some of them are watching this and going to give me their opinions on that anyway. But I think it's really solid for the most part, aside from a few things that, I'll be honest, I'll be house ruling them, because I think it's just, respawning is just a little bit ridiculous for me. This isn't a video game. Like, go play a video. If you want to respawn, go play a video game. This is not what this is. But we do have our concerns that is exactly what Wizards of the Coast want to produce, is a video game rather than a tabletop role-playing game. But that's another rant for another time. This is really solid. I really, 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 really do like this. They've got some really solid ideas. They have thought of everything here, which is nice. It's really nice. They've thought of everything. They've got a clear procedure in place. I'd like them to kind of lay out the flow of it a little bit nicer, which is a common complaint I have for Wizards of the Coast. But this is a really, really, really solid rule set. I'm really looking to see what options, really looking forward, to seeing what options they're making available. And yeah, I think this is really, really solid. Really solid. I was excited for them to release it. That's why I've done this video today, despite how exhausted I am. I've been really looking forward to them releasing it, and they haven't disappointed. I do think that, look, Strongholds and Followers is very, very nice. But I don't know if this is a little bit more complicated, perhaps, than the Bastion system. It's a whole book as opposed to 20 pages. I think it's solid. I'm really, really liking this. I'm looking forward to trying it out. I'm looking forward to playtesting it. So far, a big thumbs up, minus some very specific criticisms, but love. Really good stuff in this. And let me know what you think as well. Do make sure as well that if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, do make sure that you do that and ring that bell so you get notifications of when we upload new content. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. I'd love to know what you think. Do please debate with me on whether or not you disagree with some of my strongly held opinions in this video. I do like a good debate in good spirit and good faith, of course. So yeah, do let me know. And also, if you do follow our actual play, which is the main part of this channel, Bardic Quest itself, we have launched this week our Patreon for people to support the show and help us to do more, grow the channel, grow our reach, grow our audience, grow the quality of the show, grow the amount of stories that we're able to tell through Dungeons and Dragons. And we've got some more exciting stuff in the works for patrons. So if you did want to support what we're doing and wanted to help us to create more, which is of course what we'd like, then head on over to patreon.com/Bardic Quest and show us your support there. But if nothing else, the best thing you can do, aside from that, if you don't want to, contribute monetarily, then just hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, and leave a comment, because that really does help YouTube to recognize that this is more of what you'd like to see. And of course, share it with your friends. If you have somebody who loves D&D, loves things like Critical Role and actual plays, then share alike. We'd be very, very grateful and eternally grateful to you for that as well. So that's it from me for this week. I ran slightly longer than I wanted to, but that's me for this week. And I'm going to go have a lie down. And I'll see you, I think, next Monday. We're going to be back to the usual scheduled programming of about 12:30 on Mondays for Arcana Unearthed. But I kind of wanted to get this one in early as breaking news, essentially, for the Bastion system. which once again, big thumbs up from me, with some minor tweaks or major tweaks, perhaps, depending on your point of view, needed. So that's me signing off for the week. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week for another fab episode. Catch you later.